Hey everyone, how's it going? So, after a very long day in the workshop, I have fabricated my first version. This is very much a prototype and very rough. What I was calling my dolphin tongs, which you remember from the last video. With theory worked, you know, I thought that was pretty cool. In practice, do they work? Kinda. They work well, not as well as I'd like, and I think that there is some pretty solid merit to the idea. It just needs some tweaking, so I thought I would show them to you. They're very stiff at the moment, so you'll have to forgive me having to bear down on them. I did all of the riveting cold, and anybody that's made tongs before will know that the last thing you really need to do is set the entire boss in the fire pot, get it nice and red, and then work that sucker to loosen it up to a certain amount of, floppiness. Who doesn't love a floppy tong, am I right? The problem with this particular pair of tongs is it has two bosses. So there they are. Have a look at that. We've got a boss here, double boss, and a boss here, double boss. Now, for those who have not seen the original video, which I highly recommend you watching, I wanted to make a set of parallel gripping flat bar tongs. Rather than having 6 different pairs of flat bar tongs and getting them mixed up and whatnot for the different types of flat stock that I used, I wanted to have one pair that did it all. My original prototype worked to hold 2mm stock all the way up to 10mm stock. That was made of wood, so like proof of concept, nice and easy to build. After fabricating it in steel, however, it has turned into something that will happily hold from 2mm to about 8mm. You could probably stretch it to 9 when you've got giant hands like I've got. Seriously, I've got very, very large hands. But it does work. Now notice the reins are very heavily bent. There's a simple reason for that. When you have normal tongs, you can actually bend the reins so that when they are gripping down on the specifically designed size of stock that those tongs were made for, they will sit in a comfortable grip. But when you have a pair of tongs that is designed to hold multiple different thicknesses of stock, that poses a problem. So here's the solution that I came up with, and that is to have them bent when they are in the smallest possible setting, which is for about 2mm stock. They actually cross over each other, so you can hold them a little bit closer to the double boss here, and you get a grip here. When you have to open them up to hold larger stock, this would be about 7mm or 8mm, which is about as big as it's going to get, you can quite comfortably hold it here. And you can adjust where on the tongs you hold it within basically a sort of a 6-inch area. And like I said, they're very stiff at the moment, but I've greased it up for this video and the whole workshop smells like lithium grease. It's fantastic. You can see my terrible welding job on the jaws here, but as you can see, when they close parallel to each other. That means that if I want to hold 3mm stock, I can hold securely 3mm stock. If I want to hold 4mm stock, like this angle iron, I can just hold 4mm stock. Nice and securely. 6mm stock. Apologize for all the Americans in the audience. In it goes, holds on, and you've got yourself a nice, secure grip on 6mm stock. But it doesn't stop there. A lot of people like to make knives out of old files. This will grab the files. Lovely. Nice and secure. Like, no hands. Beefy leaf spring. We all have used leaf spring. This one you need to have the big hands for. This is where I was saying it starts getting into some limitations, but that's a pretty secure grip. All blacksmiths know how heavy this stuff is, and that's not going anywhere. And the beefiest stock of all that I can actually get into these, Farrier's Rasp, which Sam Towns sent me a couple of these. But, like I said, you're going to have big hands to hold these. Good heavens. Big hands to hold these. It's not the most comfortable grip in the world. However, that is 6 different common stock types that I use in my blacksmithing, and I'll take one pair of tongs that can hold 6 different stock types any day of the week. But you can see the bottom jaw does sort of stick out a little bit, and because of that it necessitates having long bits. If you're going to try and make these yourself, which I highly recommend, despite them not going exactly the way that I planned, I highly recommend, you need long bits here, because on a larger thing it sticks out quite a way. It sort of exponentially gets bigger. But if you've got nice long bits and one of them's back here and the other one's up here, there's always going to be, as you can see, quite a bit of crossover. So here I'm getting about 1 inch of grip on the largest possible setting, and on a more realistic setting that's about 6mm, I'm getting a good 2 inches of grip. Now, remember, if you haven't watched the first video, which I highly recommend, the angle and distance of these pins has to be the same angle and distance of these pins. Otherwise, this will not open parallel. You'll still get duckbilling, where it sort of opens like that. It'll be less than a normal pair of tongs, but better than nothing. Now, there are two things that you really need to tweak with this. Every pair of tongs has the tweak phase. Once you've built it and you've shaped it and everything, there's the tweak phase, and we all know it. These are no different. First tweak, no matter how hard you try and design it and fabricate it to make sure that these are parallel when they're closed, they're not going to be parallel. So there's going to be a certain amount of filing or whatnot. You can speed that process up by taking a known piece of flat stock, like some machine cold rolled 6mm, for example. You put that in there while the jaws are hot and hammer that sucker down and it'll go flat. Once you get it flat for one stock size, it will be flat and parallel for all stock sizes. The other thing is wrangling the reins of the tongs. Now, this is going to bother some people, but like I said, it's necessary. Normally, you are able to position the reins of tongs to fit the exact size of stock that you're trying to hold in those tongs. These are tongs that hold multiple sizes of stock, and so you cannot just have the reins be in the same position for every type of stock that you put in them. So because of that, it necessitates changing the way you think about reins. Having this big kick here allows you to, even when it's gripped closed, have a nice solid purchase. Obviously you can't hold a solid purchase back here because that's going to open them up again. But here, you've got a nice solid grip, and really my hand is still a good 10 inches away from whatever I'm holding, so that's still pretty good. And if you've got smaller hands than me, that's great, you can hold it even further back. It also means that on much larger stock, you're going to have mammoth-sized hands to hold like this. Really, that's not ergonomic. The limitations of it are a little bit further than I thought, but to be able to hold from 2mm stock comfortably all the way to 8mm stock, that's still pretty good. Now here's the thing, I'm thinking of building another set of these, not just because these ones were built horribly, but can you imagine, instead of having flat beds in them, having V-beds, one on top, one at the bottom. Smaller round stocks and square bar stocks could easily be held in something with V-bed jaws instead of flatbed jaws. You could even combine them and actually make them thicker flatbeds with a V in the center, and then you'd be able to hold the various sizes of flat stock and round stock and square stock, and thus have one pair of tongs that kind of does it all within a certain range. And that way you can reduce all of the tongs in your shop down to very little. Now, the elephant in the room most people are asking about is weight. You may have noticed that the actual boss area on these is quite thin. I fabricated these out of 5mm flat bar stock and welded on 10mm round reins on them. These are pretty light. I was expecting them to be much heavier and awkward and ungainly to use, but once I have made that motion a little bit looser, this is very, very workable tongs. They are actually lighter than the pair of tongs that I use for 20mm round. I have a pair of wolf jaw tongs designed for a 20mm round stock, and they are considerably heavier than this. The astute of you may notice that the wooden prototype actually had this rein attached to this jaw, and the action happened on top. The reason it is now different and the top rein is attached to the top here is not for any nefarious purpose, it's simply because I welded the wrong piece and didn't realize until I started filming this video. What I have learned is that it makes no difference whether or not you attach to the top or the bottom. However, I think it came out pretty cool. Not as nice as I would like, but that's a nice solid purchase on a pair of tongs, and I can just have one pair of tongs and just grab whatever stock I'm working with. Fantastic for if you're using multiple sizes of stock in one single day. That's pretty cool. I don't know, I'm pretty chuffed with it. They were called the Orphan Tongs because the prototype looked a lot like a dolphin. These look a bit more like Trogdor the Burninator. Trogdor tongs. Really, just parallel flat jaw tongs, but you could make parallel V-bit tongs and parallel round tongs, although if you were to make parallel jaw wolf jaw tongs, that's the dream. I'd like to see it done, to be honest. It'll be a while before I try and make these again though. I am terrible at fabrication and it took me all day, embarrassingly all day, to make this pair. But they work, and I think these will happily become part of my daily use tongs. Not great, but definitely not bad. Anyway, thanks all for watching. If you want to support my work, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You can also follow the links in the description below to either buy me a coffee if you want to support me one time, throw in $3 at me for a coffee, or multiple coffees if you're feeling generous. I also make a lot of stuff, usually one-of-a-kind items, jewelry and other things. You can buy them in my Etsy store, which is also listed below. And I will see you guys on the next video. I have no idea what it is. I'll make it a surprise for you. Anyway, I'm going to go and have some dinner, I think. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.